You're with Newsfeed, the AM edition. Great to be in your company now. Police Minister Bheki says South Africa will be safer with less people owning firearms and has expressed his desire to limit gun ownership. This has not gone down well with civil rights organization AfriForum, who say that the police should focus instead on overcoming its own weaknesses and strengthening its mandate. To discuss this, I'm now joined in studio by Marnus Kamfer, who's legal and risk manager for AfriForum. Marnus, thanks for your time. Welcome to Newsroom Africa. Great to have you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
So, you're pushing back against the minister's calls. Tell us why.
Well, where does one start?
Right.
The problem we have is the stance of AfriForum on this matter is a stance that every sane citizen in this country should have. If you take away gun ownership from the citizens in this country, it's like leading a lamb to the slaughter. Why do I say this? It was very recently that the National Commissioner, while the minister was sitting next to him, told this country that the police is unable to fulfill their mandate in terms of Section 205 of the Constitution. In other words, they told us that they cannot protect South Africans against crime. They cannot properly investigate crime. Then on top of this, we heard last year that the police's budget will be cut with several billions in the years to come. Now, if we hear about this, then we think that the police will obviously look after their internal assets. But this is not the case. In the last 6 years, 4,700 firearms went missing. The police don't know where it is. And unfortunately, the probability of these firearms falling into the hands of peace-loving citizens is not very probable. So to take away the citizens' right to protect themselves where the police can't is ludicrous.
I can imagine, though, that we can have an instance where we walk and chew at the same time. So why can't we have a reality where police strengthen their mandate and get their house in order, but also have a conversation about the risks that having guns in South African homes poses to society, generally speaking? Why can't those processes take place at the same time?
Well, if we look at the situation and you look at the people who contravenes legislation with firearms, it is in a very, very, very small amount that persons that is in legal or does have legal firearms, they are not the problem. It's the criminals that has firearms that they have illegally procured somewhere else. That's where the problem lies. And like this amnesty that the minister gave us now, the people with illegal firearms are not going to make use of amnesty. Why would they? It is the legal firearm owners that started giving in their firearms because they're feeling this pressure from the minister.
Let's talk about the facts on the ground, though. Many studies have come out to say that, if you own a gun, you're more likely to be killed by that gun yourself. We've seen instances where that has happened, where people who own guns legally end up dying at those very weapons. What's your response to that fact?
Well, obviously that happens. There's going to be something that happens in every situation you have.
Should we not work to perhaps limit the possibility of it continuing to happen?
But if you look at the bigger picture, let's look at the farm murder figure last year. The attacks went up, but the deaths went down because people in South Africa are starting to fight back. They're using firearms within the framework of the law to fight back against crime because the police can't protect them. And this is for citizens in cities as well. They fight back in a legal matter with their firearm to protect themselves and their family.
I struggle to appreciate that because it almost seems that we, introducing more violence in a very violent society. Take us through perhaps the concerns you have as an organization insofar as that dynamic is concerned. The fact that the reality is having a crossfire is likely to also have more casualties involved, more innocent people losing their lives. And I imagine that's the kind of sentiment that the minister is trying to bring forward, that it is the very idea of having guns within battle that's actually more destructive than constructive.
Okay, let's go to what the minister wants. This minister dreams of a South Africa where guns are only in the possession of the police and the military. Now the problem is, like we said to each other, the police said they cannot protect the citizens of this country. Now let's say they take away all of the legal firearms. The illegal firearms are still going to be there. Our borders is shut. There is no patrols. People come through the border as they wish, and they bring firearms with them, unfortunately. So now you take away the legal firearm, you take away people's ability to protect themselves, but there's a constant illegal flow of firearms, and the police can't protect the citizens. If you take it further, the police recently said they simply do not have enough ammunition to do practice and to do their job. Now, where does that leave us? People are starting to protect themselves within the framework of the law, and the AfriForum stance is for this.
Take me through ways through which you can work with the police minister, though. Obviously, we all have the same objective, which is to create a safer South Africa. I imagine you're not suggesting that even your long-term plan is for people to need to have guns. The sentiment I'm getting from you is that the current situation warrants the ownership of guns, but in the long term, I imagine you're also working towards a society where there wouldn't be a need for that kind of protection. So how are you as an organization able to at least assist the minister work towards that?
Well, we all can dream. We all want world peace. We all want violence to disappear. Unfortunately, in South Africa at this stage, it's like thinking of KFC without chicken. It's not viable. We need citizens, and that is where AfriForum safety structures come in as well. It's growing at a tremendous pace. We have approximately 150 structures with close to 12,000 volunteers that starts working with the police on ground level. Flip Base always speaks about the golden triangle between the police, security companies, and then these neighborhood watches that should work together to deter crime. And that works very well at tactical level. Unfortunately, when one goes higher up to minister and higher ranking officials, that is not their sentiment. And that's where the frustration comes in.
My fear is always fear-mongering, right? Creating the sense that, things are falling apart drastically and people need to arm themselves. The sentiments you have, are they backed up by any kind of studies that you've come across, any kind of factual basis, or is it just purely anecdotal at this point?
No. Like I said earlier, when one looks at the attacks that took place last year, the attacks are up. Remember, South Africa is a country. In the past few years, the murder figure has went up 1,000 a year. Not down, it went up. So the attacks is more, but if you go in deeper, you'll see that even though the attacks is more, because the people start organizing themselves and using firearms to protect themselves in a legal matter, remember, you always need to work within the framework of the law. Because people are doing that, the attacks are higher, but the casualties of lives are lower. So the deterrent are better.
All right, so in a practical sense then, give me an idea of how you imagine households treating this reality. I don't imagine you saying everybody should have a gun. Take me through on a practical level how you imagine this should be dealt with.
Well, I'm going to say it like it is. If you care about your life, at your family's life, at this stage in South Africa, you should go and get a legal firearm. Train yourself in this firearm, know how to use it. God forbid we don't want to use that firearm. But when the time comes and you and your family are attacked, you don't want to stand there while you're being attacked by people with firearms and you can't defend yourself and your family.
I imagine a lot of people will disagree with that, but that's how you see it. Thank you very much for coming through. Marnus Kamfer is the Legal and Risk Manager of AfriForum, giving us the organization's sense of how we should be treating the violence in this country. And they're suggesting that owning fires is a possible way to go about that. Let's get your sentiment on that. Do weigh in on our various social media platforms, and let's